Deep in the heart of the Oregon wilderness, nestled among the towering Douglas firs and the volcanic peaks of the Cascade Range, there was a lake that shouldn't have existed. For decades, locals and hikers would visit this serene patch of sapphire water, only to return a few months later and find nothing but a dry, grassy meadow. It was known as Lost Lake, a name that felt more like a riddle than a geographical marker. Every year, like clockwork, the lake would fill up during the spring thaws, and every year it would vanish into the earth as if someone had pulled a giant plug. In a bold move to understand this geological disappearing act, a team of geologists and hydrologists decided to do something that sounded like a plot from a science fiction movie. They decided to wait for the water to recede and then effectively investigate the very bottom of the basin to see where the millions of gallons of water were going. What they found at the bottom of Lost Lake wasn't just a hole in the ground. It was a gateway to a subterranean world that changed everything we thought we knew about the plumbing of the American West. Today, we are diving into the mystery of Oregon's vanishing lake and the incredible scientific discovery that proves the ground beneath our feet is far more porous and alive than we ever imagined. To understand why Lost Lake is such a scientific anomaly, you first have to understand the typical life cycle of a mountain lake. Most lakes are trapped in basins of solid rock or thick clay that act like a bathtub. The water stays there until it evaporates or flows out through a surface stream. But Lost Lake is different. It sits on a foundation of ancient basalt, the result of volcanic eruptions that occurred thousands of years ago. When the snow melts in the high Cascades, the water rushes down and fills the basin faster than it can escape. For a few months, it looks like a perfectly normal, beautiful lake where you can paddle a canoe or fish for trout. But as the inflow slows down in the late summer, the drain at the bottom overtakes the supply. This drain is actually a lava tube. If you've never seen one, imagine a giant hollow stone pipe formed by flowing magma. When a volcano erupts, the outer edges of a lava flow cool and harden first, creating a crust. Meanwhile, the molten lava inside keeps flowing like a river. Once the eruption stops and the liquid lava drains out, it leaves behind a hollow tunnel. Oregon is famous for these tubes, but the one at the bottom of Lost Lake is special because it acts as a high-capacity intake valve for an entire regional aquifer. When the scientists finally stood on the muddy floor of the drained lake, they were looking at an opening about 6 feet wide. It looked like a dark, rocky throat swallowing the last remnants of the lake's water. For years, people had tried to fix the lake. Frustrated locals would throw car parts, old engines, and boulders into the hole, hoping to plug it so the lake would stay full year-round. But the earth is more powerful than a pile of scrap metal. The lava tube simply swallowed the debris, or the water found a way around it. The scientists realized that this wasn't just a local curiosity. It was a massive experimental site provided by nature itself. The first big question was, where does the water go? To find out, researchers used a technique involving non-toxic fluorescent dyes. They injected the dye into the vanishing water at Lost Lake and then began monitoring various springs and wells throughout the surrounding mountain range. They expected the water to emerge maybe a mile or two away, but the results were unbelievable. The water from Lost Lake was traveling through a vast, underground network of volcanic conduits and emerging in springs over 10 miles away, feeding into the Mackenzie River system. This discovery changed the entire map of Oregon's hydrology. It proved that the mountains weren't just shedding water off their peaks into rivers. They were absorbing it into a deep, subterranean reservoir. Lost Lake was acting as a giant recharge station for the groundwater. This is crucial because that groundwater eventually provides the flow for rivers during the dry summer months. Without the drain at Lost Lake, the regional river systems might actually struggle during a drought. The lake isn't losing water, it's distributing it. But the investigation at the bottom of the lake revealed something even more fascinating. The lava tube wasn't just a simple pipe. As the team used ground-penetrating radar and remote sensing, they realized that the tube at Lost Lake was part of a massive, multi-tiered system of caverns that had been hidden for millennia. These caverns are so large that they could hold skyscrapers. They are vertical cathedrals of basalt, carved by fire and then repurposed by water. Finding this network helped scientists understand why the Cascades are so remarkably efficient at storing water despite having very few large surface reservoirs. The mountains themselves are the reservoir. The discovery also had major implications for how we understand volcanic activity in the region. The presence of such a high-functioning drainage system suggests that the volcanic rock beneath the Cascades is far more fractured and hollow than previously thought. This affects everything from how we predict landslides to how we track the movement of magma deep underground. The water flowing through these tubes acts as a cooling system for the crust, a giant radiator that helps regulate the thermal energy of the volcanic range. As the story of the discovery at the bottom of the lake spread, it attracted researchers from various fields. Biologists were interested in the extremophiles that might be living in the dark, nutrient-rich corridors of the lava tubes. They found specialized bacteria that survive on the minerals in the basalt, living in a world of total darkness and constant cold water flow. These organisms provide a glimpse into the types of life that might exist on other volcanic worlds, like Mars or the moons of Jupiter, where similar lava tubes have been spotted by satellites. But for the locals, the most unbelievable part was the sheer volume of water involved. It's estimated that Lost Lake drains at a rate of several hundred gallons per minute. Over the course of a season, that's millions of cubic feet of water. Imagine a fleet of thousands of water trucks driving into a hole in the ground every single day. That is the power of the Lost Lake lava tube. It is a silent, relentless engine of the Earth. The scientific investigation also debunked a long-standing myth. For years, people thought the lake might be connected to a secret underwater volcano or a mysterious tectonic fissure. By thoroughly examining the bottom, scientists proved it was a much more elegant, natural process. It was simply the Earth doing what it does best, recycling. The water falls as snow, melts into a lake, drains into a tube, travels through the mountains, emerges in a spring, and eventually flows to the ocean, only to be evaporated and fall as snow once again. Lost Lake is just a visible moment in that invisible cycle. One of the most impressive aspects of the research was the use of 3D mapping. Scientists used LiDAR and sonar to create a digital twin of the basin and the entrance to the tube. This allowed them to simulate different flow rates and predict how the lake would respond to changes in climate. They found that Lost Lake is a delicate balancing act. If the winter snowpack is too light, the lake might not fill up at all. If the spring is too warm, it fills and drains too quickly. This makes Lost Lake a canary in the coal mine for the health of the entire Pacific Northwest's water supply. The investigation at the bottom of the lake also served as a reminder of human impact. In the mud around the lava tube, the team found decades of plugs that people had tried to use to stop the drain. There were old tires, bags of cement, and even pieces of lumber. These items hadn't stopped the water. They had only polluted the intake. This led to a massive cleanup effort and a new educational campaign to protect the site. It's a lesson in the futility of trying to fight nature's design. If the lake wants to drain, it's going to drain. But why does this change everything? Before the Lost Lake study, urban planners and water managers in Oregon focused almost entirely on surface water. They looked at snow depth and reservoir levels. But after seeing the results of the Lost Lake drainage, they realized they had to start managing the hidden water. They had to protect the areas where water enters the lava tube systems, as these are the arteries of the state's water supply. A spill or a pollution event near a site like Lost Lake could be catastrophic, as the water travels so quickly through the tubes that there is no time for natural filtration. The study also opened up new questions about the age of these systems. By analyzing the mineral deposits inside the lava tube at the lake's bottom, researchers were able to date the last time the tube was active with lava. This gave them a clearer picture of the volcanic history of the Santiam Pass area, showing a period of intense activity followed by a long, quiet era where water took over the role of the shaper. It's a story of transition from a landscape of fire to a landscape of ice and water. As the sun sets over the dry basin of Lost Lake in the late autumn, you can actually hear the water. If you stand near the hole, there is a distinct gurgling sound, like a giant bathtub finishing its cycle. It's a haunting, beautiful sound that reminds you of the immense scale of the plumbing beneath your feet. The lake isn't gone. It's just moved house. It's now part of the deep, cold currents that move through the basalt, miles below the forest floor. The discovery at Lost Lake has also influenced how we think about natural infrastructure. Instead of building massive, expensive concrete dams and pipes, we are starting to realize that the Earth has already built much of the infrastructure we need. Sites like Lost Lake are natural water treatment and distribution plants. If we protect the geological integrity of these sites, they will continue to provide us with clean water for free, just as they have for thousands of years. The investigation also highlighted the sheer beauty of the volcanic underworld. The interior of the lava tube is lined with lava stalactites and dripstone features that look like melted chocolate. The walls are colored with various minerals, reds from iron, greens from copper, and whites from calcium. It is a hidden gallery that only a few people will ever see in person, but through the work of the scientists at the bottom of the lake, we can all appreciate its complexity. One of the most surprising findings was the speed of the water. In typical soil or sand, water might move a few inches or feet a day. In the lava tube system connected to Lost Lake, the water can move several miles in a single day. This is highway speed for hydrology. It explains why some springs in Oregon can surge almost immediately after a heavy rain or a sudden melt, even if they are miles away from the mountains. The lava tubes are the express lanes of the water cycle. The discovery also had a bizarre side effect. It became a magnet for lava tube hunters, amateur cave explorers who want to find the other end of the Lost Lake pipe. While the main tube at the lake is too dangerous and narrow to explore for long, there are hundreds of other accessible tubes in the region that give explorers a sense of what the plumbing looks like. It has turned Oregon into a global destination for volcanic speleology, the study of caves in volcanic rock. As the years pass, Lost Lake continues its cycle. But the way we look at it has changed forever. It's no longer just a vanishing lake or a local mystery. It is a vital node in a massive, breathtakingly complex system that connects the sky to the deep earth and back again. It's a reminder that geography isn't just about the surface of the world. It's about the volumes and the voids beneath us. The scientific discovery at Lost Lake is a testament to the power of curiosity. By asking a simple question, where does the water go? Scientists uncovered a hidden world that redefined the hydrology of an entire region. It proved that sometimes the most unbelievable truths are hidden right in front of us, or rather right beneath us. The drain at Lost Lake is actually one of many. Scientists have since identified several other smaller plug holes in the Cascades, but none are as dramatic or as large as the one in Oregon. It remains the gold standard for studying the interaction between surface water and volcanic geology. Every year, new groups of students and researchers visit the site to learn from its unique behavior. The investigation also touched on the history of the indigenous peoples of the region. Many local tribes had legends about vanishing waters and hidden spirits within the mountains. While the scientists used sensors and radar, the ancient stories had already captured the essence of the place. That Lost Lake was a thin spot in the world, a place where the surface and the deep were one. It's a rare moment where modern science and ancient folklore find themselves in perfect agreement. As climate change continues to affect snowpack levels, the health of Lost Lake is being monitored more closely than ever. If the lake fails to fill up, it means the deep aquifers isn't getting its annual recharge. This could have a ripple effect on agriculture, salmon populations, and drinking water for thousands of people downstream. Lost Lake is a vital signs monitor for the environment, and its thump-thump is the sound of water entering the lava tube. The discovery at the bottom of the lake also taught us about the resilience of the Earth. Despite our best efforts to plug it with trash or change its flow, the lava tube system has remained functional. It is a robust, ancient piece of engineering that has weathered millennia of climate shifts and volcanic movements. It reminds us that while the surface of our planet is fragile, its bones are incredibly strong. One of the final projects at the site involved installing permanent sensors deep within the throat of the lava tube. These sensors track the temperature, pressure, and flow rate of the water even when the lake is full. The data is beamed via satellite to researchers all over the world. Lost Lake has graduated from a local mystery to a global data point, helping us understand the circulatory system of volcanic islands and mountain ranges from Hawaii to Iceland. The what was found at the bottom of our title refers to more than just a hole. It refers to a realization. We found that the mountains are hollow, that the water is fast, and that our maps were incomplete. We found that the Earth is still full of surprises, even in places we thought we knew perfectly well. The bottom of Lost Lake wasn't the end of a mystery. It was the beginning of a whole new chapter in Earth science. As you look at the drone footage of the lake filling up in the spring, it's hard not to feel a sense of wonder. You see the water swirling around the edges of the intake, a mini maelstrom in the middle of a quiet forest. You know that beneath that water, the highway is open, and millions of gallons are starting their fast, cold journey through the mountain. It is a spectacle of nature that happens in total silence, hidden from the world. The Lost Lake discovery also changed how we approach vanishings in nature. Whether it's a forest that stops growing or a river that changes course, we now look for the hidden connections. We look for the lava tubes of the problem, the invisible conduits that move energy and matter in ways we can't see from the surface. It shifted our perspective toward a more holistic view of the planet. As the scientists concluded their multi-year investigation, they left the lake exactly as they found it. They didn't try to pave the hole or build a fence. They respected the drain, because they understood that Lost Lake isn't broken. It's exactly the way it's supposed to be. It's a masterpiece of balance, a living example of the Earth's internal plumbing. The everything that changed wasn't just a textbook, it was our relationship with the landscape. We stopped seeing the Cascades as a solid wall and started seeing them as a vibrant, permeable sponge. We stopped seeing the vanishing as a loss and started seeing it as a gift to the river systems below. Lost Lake taught us that in nature, nothing is ever truly lost. It's just in transit. If you ever find yourself in the Oregon Cascades, take a trip to Lost Lake. If it's spring, enjoy the beauty of the clear mountain water. If it's autumn, walk out onto the muddy floor and find the hole. Stand near it and listen. You'll hear the heartbeat of the mountain. You'll feel the pull of the deep earth. And you'll remember the scientists who stood where you are and realized that the world is much bigger and much more mysterious than the surface would lead you to believe. The mystery of Lost Lake is a story of fire and water, of fire creating the pipes and water using them to sustain life. It is a story of discovery that reminds us that we are still explorers, even in our own backyards. And as the last of the water gurgles down the lava tube, it carries with it the secrets of the mountains, leaving us to wonder what else is waiting to be found at the bottom of the next vanishing lake. The investigation at the bottom of the lake proved that science is at its best when it's adventurous. It's about more than just numbers and charts. It's about getting your boots muddy and looking into the dark places to see where they lead. The results from Lost Lake have rippled through the world of geology, reminding us that the planet is a dynamic, living system that is always moving, always changing, and always full of wonder. So, the next time you see a lake that looks a little too perfect, or a river that emerges from nowhere, remember Oregon's Lost Lake. Remember the lava tube and the glowing dye and the three-dimensional maps. Remember that beneath every serene surface, there is a complex world of hidden passages and ancient conduits. We are living on the skin of a masterpiece, and every once in a while, a place like Lost Lake gives us a glimpse into the depths. The lake will fill again next spring, and the drain will open again next summer. The cycle will continue, a silent clockwork of the earth. And as long as it does, it will stand as a monument to the incredible discoveries that happen when we dare to look beneath the surface. Lost Lake wasn't just a place where water vanished. It was a place where our understanding grew. And that is the greatest discovery of all. Science is a journey that never truly ends. For every lost lake we explain, 10 more mysteries emerge from the shadows. But the lesson remains. The Earth has a plan, and its plan is far more sophisticated than anything we could have designed ourselves. We are just the students, trying to keep up with the lessons that have been written in basalt and water over millions of years. Lost Lake is quiet now, the water is deep in the mountains, and the researchers are back in their labs, but the discovery remains. It is part of the story of Oregon, part of the story of the Cascades, and part of the story of how we learn to listen to the Earth. The lake may be lost, but the knowledge we found at the bottom is here to stay. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into one of the Pacific Northwest's most fascinating geographical puzzles. The story of Lost Lake is a reminder that the world is full of hidden plumbing, and that our planet is constantly working behind the scenes to keep our rivers flowing and our forests green. Keep exploring, stay curious, and always keep an eye on the water. You never know where it might be headed. Until next time, stay connected to the mysteries of our amazing world.